You're on a website. You want to read one article. Maybe you're looking for a job. Maybe you're shopping. Maybe you just clicked a link someone sent you. And then a box appears. We use cookies to improve your experience. 2 buttons sit underneath: Manage Preferences and the big, beautiful button, Accept All. You don't read the 47-page privacy policy. You don't open the settings. You just click it, and the website loads. Nothing happens. At least, nothing you can see.
Because while you're reading the page, your browser may have just opened the door to an entire ecosystem of trackers, analytics systems, and advertising technologies. And some of them can follow what you do long after you leave that website. So, what actually happens when you click Accept All Cookies? And perhaps more importantly, what exactly did you just agree to? The first cookie. Let's start with something surprisingly simple. A cookie isn't a virus.
It isn't a tiny hacker hiding inside your phone, and it isn't literally a cookie. A cookie is essentially a small piece of information that a website can store in your browser. Think of it like this. You walk into a hotel. The receptionist gives you a tiny card. That card says, "This person has already checked in." The next time you come back, the hotel doesn't have to ask who you are all over again. Your browser can do something similar for websites. You visit a website. The website gives your browser some information. Your browser stores it, and later, the website can read it again. That's one reason websites can remember things like your preferences, your login session, or what's sitting inside your shopping cart. Sounds harmless, and often, it is. But there's a catch. Not every cookie exists for the same reason. The good cookies. Imagine you're shopping online. You add a pair of shoes to your cart. Then you click another page. The shoes are still there. You click another page. Still there. You close your browser and come back later. Depending on how the site is designed, the website may still remember your preferences or certain information. That's useful. Some cookies are essential for the website to actually provide the service you're asking for. For example, a shopping website may need a cookie to remember what's in your basket. A banking website may use storage technologies for security and authentication. These are the boring cookies, the useful cookies, the cookies that make the internet feel like it remembers you. And that's why the word cookies sounds so innocent. But then there are cookies that aren't really there to help you. They're there to help the website understand you. And that's where things get interesting. The website starts watching. Let's say you click Accept All.
The website may now be permitted to use non-essential cookies and other tracking technologies according to the choices you've just made. One category is analytics. Analytics systems can help website owners understand things like how many people visited, which pages did they view, how long did they stay, where did they come from, what did they click. This information can be extremely useful to the company running the website.
If 90% of visitors leave a page after 5 seconds, something is probably wrong. If millions of people keep clicking one button, the company wants to know why. So analytics can be perfectly legitimate and useful. But now imagine the same principle scaled across the entire internet. You visit website A, then website B, then website C. And some technologies are designed to recognize or connect activity across different sites.
Suddenly, your online behavior isn't just happening in isolated rooms. It's becoming a trail, and that trail can become extremely valuable. Enter the third party. Here's where things get weird. You visit a website, but the website isn't necessarily the only company involved. A page can contain technologies provided by other companies. Advertising platforms, analytics providers, social media tools, embedded content, measurement systems, and other services.
So, while you're technically visiting one website, your browser may be communicating with multiple services behind the scenes. Think of it like walking into a restaurant and discovering that there are cameras belonging to 5 different companies hanging from the ceiling. You came to eat, but several other businesses may be interested in understanding what happens while you're there. That's one reason third-party tracking has become such a major privacy issue.
The UK Information Commissioner's Office specifically distinguishes third-party tracking and cross-site tracking from cookies that are strictly necessary for a service. Advertising and cross-site tracking generally require consent under its guidance. And this is where the innocent-looking button, Accept All, starts to mean a lot more than most people think. The internet remembers. Now imagine you visit an online store. You look at headphones. You don't buy them. You leave. Later that evening, you open another website, and suddenly, you see an advertisement for headphones. You think, that's creepy. But there doesn't necessarily need to be a person sitting somewhere watching you. Modern advertising systems can use automated technologies to collect information about browsing activity and help deliver ads based on interests. The FTC has described behavioral advertising as using information about people's online activities to serve advertisements tailored to their interests. So the system doesn't need to know, this is John from Lagos. It may simply know that a particular browser or advertising identifier has recently shown interest in headphones. And then, another website can potentially show an ad related to that interest. This is why you sometimes feel like the internet is reading your mind. It isn't necessarily reading your mind, it's reading your behavior. Your browsing history becomes a story. Now, let's make this more uncomfortable. Imagine your browsing activity looks like this. You search for running shoes. Then you visit a fitness website. Then you read an article about weight loss. Then you watch videos about home workouts. Then you search for protein powder. Individually, none of these actions seems particularly revealing, but put them together and they form a story. And that's one of the most important things to understand about online tracking. Individual data points can become much more revealing when combined. One click doesn't tell you much. 10,000 clicks can tell a system quite a lot about patterns of behavior. The FTC has noted that tracking technologies can be used to collect information about pages people view and other online activities, including for targeted advertising.
And now we reach the part most people misunderstand. They know everything about me. Not exactly. Clicking Accept All Cookies does not automatically give a website unlimited access to everything on your phone. A cookie isn't a magic key. It can't simply open your WhatsApp messages. It can't automatically turn on your microphone. It doesn't suddenly give a website access to every photograph in your gallery. And it doesn't mean someone is personally watching your screen. That's important, because the reality is both less dramatic and, in some ways, more interesting. Cookies are primarily about storing and retrieving information through your browser or device. And modern websites can use other technologies too. Pixels, local storage, device identifiers, scripts, fingerprinting techniques, and other forms of tracking. The ICO's guidance makes this distinction important. Rules around cookies can also apply to technologies that store information on or access information from a user's device, not just traditional cookie files. So the real question isn't, do cookies spy on me? The better question is, what technologies did I just give permission to use? The sneaky part. Here's something that surprises people. Not every cookie needs your permission. Some are considered strictly necessary because the service can't reasonably function without them. For example, you log into a website. The site needs to remember that you're logged in. You add something to your shopping basket. The site needs to remember your basket. Those functions may rely on necessary storage technologies, but analytics, advertising, cross-site tracking, those are different. For example, the ICO says analytics cookies are not automatically exempt simply because they are used for analytics. Consent may be required, depending on the circumstances. And advertising cookies are not considered strictly necessary, merely because advertising helps pay for the website. So when a website gives you accept all versus manage preferences, it's effectively asking, do you want to allow these additional technologies too?
So, should you never accept cookies? No, that's the wrong conclusion. Cookies are not inherently evil. Some are genuinely useful. They can keep you logged in, remember your preferences, maintain shopping carts, help websites function.
The problem is treating every cookie as if it does the same thing. It doesn't. The better habit is to ask, what am I accepting? Necessary? Fine. Analytics? Maybe. Advertising? Depends on your privacy preference. Cross-site tracking?
That's where you should pay closer attention. If you care about privacy, consider disabling non-essential categories you don't want. You can also use your browser's controls to delete, block, or manage cookies, including third-party cookies. And remember, incognito mode isn't a magical invisibility cloak. Private browsing can prevent your browser from retaining certain local history and data, but it doesn't make you invisible to websites, networks, or online services.
So, the next time you're on a website and that little box appears, "We use cookies," you now know what's hiding behind those 3 words. The important thing isn't to fear cookies, it's to understand what you're agreeing to. Because the most powerful thing about that button isn't the word accept. It's the fact that you probably clicked it without asking what you were accepting. And the next time that button appears,
Maybe, just maybe, click Manage Preferences. Because on the internet, the smallest button can sometimes tell you the most.
If you found this information valuable, make sure to subscribe to this channel.